Hey there from Bugeye guys. This was the best in-show Bugeye at the National Austin Healey Club event this past week. That's Gumby, my car since high school. This was a Concours gold car. This was a note we put on there because of all the volunteers. There were a lot of people that made this happen, and I'm very grateful because people had to travel and take time off and judge this car, and there was this popular vote contest that this one was selected as the best sprite in the show. So a big deal for these two cars. Today though, I want to talk about the judging because we got a lot of questions from our last video about points and about judging and how did we do and what did they take off and that whole thing. So I wanted to go over some of that with you today. Now here's the killer that you may not like, but the Concours committee guys, the lead folks that are running this whole program for the National Austin Healey Club, have requested me and everyone else not to talk about the points. Everybody wants to know about the points. They're telling me don't talk about the points. So I'm in a bit of a bind, and I told them that because we're really in the business of helping everybody get the most things right. It's measured by points. What do you do? Well, so here's the thing. What they're wanting is for everyone to say, look, this is a gold car. It's a gold car. However many points, whether it had 999 points or 951 points, it's a gold car. And it's completely irrelevant how you got there. And the reason why it's irrelevant is there are all these very subjective components to the voting. And I'll tell you a little more about that. For example, one of the things we got a deduction on, and I'll talk to you in deduction terms, not point terms, was this hose. Now, you should know, if you've been following our videos, we spent a lot of time on this hose. Why? Because for years you couldn't get this hose. And this hose has this radial seam that runs diagonally through it, and it has these somewhat gentle ridges. The main hose that you get is something more like this, which is like a foil-backed paper. This happens to be correct for the union between the heater box and the blower, but it is not correct for this air snorkel that feeds air into the blower. This is extremely close to being correct, but it's not exactly like the original. So we got a deduction. Pissed me off. I'll tell you why. Because I've been looking for a long time for the best original, and I really believe that this is the best one in the world that you can find, but it isn't exactly like the original. The thing is, the original had like this rubberized kind of finish, and if you found one, you would get condition deductions that would way exceed the originality deduction that we got. So to be clear about that, if you've got a hose here that's in beautiful shape, it could be made out of avocados, it doesn't matter. You don't get any deductions for that condition because it's the nicest avocado hose in the world. But you get every point off because it wasn't correct. It should be this rubberized material. So in our case, perfect condition, no deductions, but not exactly correct. Small deduction, but nonetheless, you can't get these things, and we're hoping that the Concours standards, which they're using, will be edited to consider the fact that you can't find this old rubber inner tube that looks like a hose. And even if you did, it would be such a piece of junk you'd want to throw it away. Anyway, that's one of the deductions that we had. Other things that we didn't quite get right. There weren't many, and that's one reason why it's a gold car, and that's the point. But what else can I show you? These are wire clamps, and you'll notice they have them here and here. There's two more there. On the hot water hoses for the radiator, these clamps on the earliest cars were actually like a sardine can clamp. There was one here and here, and two more, not for the heater hose, but for the lower hose. And those 4 clamps are wrong on this car. We knew that going in. We opted not to use them because the Concours standards consider functionality, and that functionality with that inferior clamp is diminished, and we didn't want to have leaks. We didn't want to overheat our special car. We put these on. We thought that from the standpoint of safety and reliability, that would be fine. It wasn't. So we got points off for not having those. And the key thing about that deduction is you tend to get multiples. So you got 4 clamps, it's usually some penalty for each one. I'm not going to tell you how much, but either way, those were some deductions. Another one that was kind of interesting, that this was a great one because we completely goofed. And one of the nice things about this process is they want you to learn about your car. They want you to learn about what's right. We learned something. It was a mistake that I made that unfortunately cost us some deductions. And that mistake is about these screws. Now, we had made a video already. This is where it kind of hurts the most in terms of my mistake. These are the baby moons, and these are now the baby moons. What was in here is a posi drive. I saved it just for this video. So these little, you see these little tick marks that run like outward, radiating outward from the center. And these tick marks run more radially around the perimeter. People call these baby moon marks. And this is a designation of a fine thread machine screw, which is how the Brits used this designation back in 1958. And this is a designation as a posi drive screw. Incorrect. Deductions, wrong screw, times 2 on the other side is 4. And there's also 3 of these little babies on each stanchion. These are also baby moon fine thread machine screws, and these were the posi drive screws. We're gonna pause for a minute. You can watch a little bit of the judging and then we'll be back.
Right here.
Prop rod is here, that looks okay. It's secured properly. We're not gonna take it out because we don't wanna scratch the paint,
it
okay?
comes out forward.
We're gonna assume that it
Okay,
comes
clips and
out right.
buffer. Does it have the buffer? Is there a buffer, or was there a buffer?
No,
I don't know.
That's the way it was supposed to be.
Okay, no buffer.
Have you ever used that prop rod for anything?
Just for points.
Blanking
That's why I'm
plate.
asking.
Blanking plate. Fasteners. I don't know what that is. Or is that?
Fasteners or
Is that the
Oh, yes, exactly.
blanking plate pedal box where the
Yeah, that's
master
fine.
cylinder is?
This is good.
this is fine.
Okay. Firewall grommets and plugs.
Yep, the good. This side's good.
And this side looks good.
Okay, got them all.
So
Yes.
this is gonna be a stupid question, I think. When we look at the bolts that are on here, and
yeah.
and 1 second, let me just, and all of these are British bolts, like that much I know. Are we gonna look at the markings on the bolts? Like,
Well, there
like
is.
there are 6 or 7 bolts that hold the blanking plate in. Do they all have to have the same marking?
That would be good.
Still on the edge. I thought we did that.
We're looking at
What?
blanking plates, hinges. It's sort of an odd question because the hinges underneath the bonnet are on the same page as the blanking plates. So, and I don't know.
I like your question. The bolts are all correct in terms of what you.
They're all
you
correct.
see.
They're all British
They're all
bolts.
correct, but you don't know if they all. Yeah, they reached into a bin and probably just pulled out a handful. What are you going to do? Sure.
That's a point though that that Friday night they run out of something, they go steal something off the Triumph or something.
Well,
But-
and that's why I'm asking the question.
I really
They're all
thought-
British bolts. I'm not
I
questioning.
say if they're all British bolts, then that's okay.
On mine, any blanking plates,
I'm not that
I made sure that the markings on every bolt were the same.
Right.
And it was a fight.
Okay.
And they're not. But I don't know if that's.
I never put a question mark on that.
And I thought these were correct.
No,
And that these were wrong.
no, that's not. They should all be like banded with it's a, I think it's a slot head screw to it. These function 1,000% better than the originals, but that's, so I'll let you guys go
Okay,
with
so,
those.
so we have a picture that we can,
We don't need a picture right now.
Okay, so back to the starter. Starter, generator, pulley, and tack drive.
okay, generator pulley is fine.
Tack drive.
Tack drive is there and it was working when we drove the car, so that's fine.
The transducer is pointed up. That's a joke.
You can't see my look that I'm giving you.
Okay, ignition coil.
Yep, there's one here.
Always a question. Lucas,
Yes.
is it the correct build date? No, I'm teasing.
Made in.
Distributor high tension leads and wires.
Just a minute.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So
Made
all
in
of the claims,
England. The coil.
they all should be.
With the exception of the intake. The
Coil looks to
3-inch
be
intake,
fine.
Okay.
that's okay. The other one should be the Bandit.
Okay. The bypass hoses,
Same
the
thing.
regular ones,
And there's no,
the quick replacements.
is there a question about the coil retainer
You
stride?
mean like right there?
Is there a question on that?
No,
Bypass
well,
hoses?
it might
I'm
be
not
somewhere
clear
else.
about
We'll
those.
get back to that.
Oh, the
When it comes
bypass
back
hoses.
up,
That's
you'll know
okay.
it's red.
Yeah.
Okay,
The little one.
distributor,
not-
high
I'm
tension
talking about the hose,
leads
not
and
the
Oh, the
wires.
hose, you're not talking about the clamp, you're talking about the hose.
Oh, what are they discussing with you? Side
That's
door.
okay.
Okay.
Is
What,
that,
what were you just, George?
So-
What was this discussion about?
Oh, what's the discussion about?
The,
Regulations, you got the radiator cap.
the flexible bypass hose,
4-pack.
whether that was original or not.
The bypass. Oh, in between
The
the
little
and the
guy.
block?
Yeah,
and that has the right clamps on it?
that has the right clamps on it. So we've got 1, 2, 3,
No, we're not at clamps yet.
4, 5.
Okay, keep them going, Dave.
Okay, distributor, high tension leads and wires. A little bit of bubble here, bubbling, not quite flat enough.
And little bulge here.
Little bulge there, okay. So that would be finish. Originality, I guess it's good. And condition,
We know that it can't be the original material, but it's as close as you're gonna get.
right.
They're just a half a condition.
You didn't save the original material? Come on.
All right, half on the, and that's because of the output bulges.
Did you have these
Anodized.
anodized?
Grab handle? Yeah.
Yep, fine. It's,
Partial tray?
there isn't one. No.
It says NA. Excellent. Gauges.
They're all there, and they all work.
They all work. They all look and they look good.
Yep.
Not
do.
faded or
Nope,
discolored.
they look good.
So there you go. You get to see a little bit of the judging. You have 4 judges. It took 4 hours. It took 2 hours last time we did it, but 4 hours. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss. And the other really key thing about this is weighting. So if you have 8 points for the wrong hose, maximum deduction, but the finish isn't quite right, how much do you take off? It's not all 8 points because it's the right hose and it's nice, but it's not exactly right. So you got to figure out where on that scale of deductions it lands. Again, the key thing is that's an arbitrary subjective group decision. So one car may have 1 point off, one car may have 7 points off for the same thing. The Concours committee is emphasizing it's a gold car. However you get there, it doesn't matter. It's a great car. Sure, there's some stuff that isn't accurate. Gold. Anyway, that's what takes a long time. A couple other things though I wanted to show you before we go. These are those little cover caps. You might have seen in a prior video that we had, and in some of our stills, we had overflow tubes here. Again, for safety, we wanted to provide that this car wouldn't catch fire. You know, you have the exhaust manifold right there, so this is kind of a crazy, quirky part of these carbs. But this has the little cover cap, which we're able to demonstrate due to a bunch of nice paperwork that Nick gathered for us, that this was correct for the first 1,050 it was, 948 engines. So that little cover cap was accepted, but I did have to pull out all that documentation and prove my point. And that's something people are interested in. You know, it's not always so absolute that everybody knows. We have a very early car here. There are some things that need to be discussed and some things that need to be verified. So you have to have your documentation when you have something that's not necessarily consistent with the rest of the roughly 50,000 Bugeyes. Here's another deduction we had. This is the original VIN plate. We've talked about this. We even have a t-shirt with this plate on it.
But remember, as we talked about with the air snorkel, you have deductions for condition, you have deductions for originality. This is an original plate. We did not want to mess with this. We don't want to touch it. It's like the greatest thing on the planet for me to have this plate intact, because sometimes there are reproductions out there. So that is the correct original plate, but as you can see, its condition is not optimal. That was the deduction for condition. And we would take that every time because the special precious plate is that valuable. Anyway, people want to know what were the deductions. That was another one. Come on around to the cockpit and I'll show you a couple other things that came up. One of the things is this beautiful mat that we have. I'll show you from this side. Now this is really interesting to me because I didn't know how this was going to go. But this is, I think, the most beautiful recreation of the original rubber mats that were in a Sprite, which for years everyone's been talking, oh, I can't get the rubber mats. And that's true. They were very flimsy. We've got videos of them. They're cracked and mildewed and damaged, and they didn't survive. Nothing on this car was supposed to survive this long. But this is an amazing likeness of exactly what it looked like. It had these longitudinal ribs here, vertical ribs on the side. This is exactly what the rubber mat looked like. It had smooth rubber in the middle, in between the longitudinal and the vertical ribs. So in terms of an accurate recreation, these are exceptional. The original rubber mats also had a smooth rubber thing here over the cross member and longitudinal ribs in the front and a little longitudinal piece here in the back. And this creates that exactly. So you'd like to think that the judges would say, well, you can't get the rubber mats. These look really, really good. No deductions. Sorry. That's not what you get. You get beautiful condition, no condition deductions, but how are they for originality? That's where the subjectivity comes in. If you have judges that are sympathetic to this quest for something that looks and feels right, you get small deductions. If you have judges that feel like the book says it's got to be rubber, it ain't rubber, then you're screwed. Big deductions for us for this. And that's so disappointing to me because I would put this in 100 Concours Bugeyes given a chance, and I'll still do that because I don't have any better alternative. But in this game, in this kooky, wacky world of Concours judging, and if you're a serious Concours guy, I don't mean to be demeaning, because it isn't really kooky. It's just a very, very difficult process. You're chasing every last fitting and color and condition, and it's just a tough game. One more thing that was tough, and thank heavens it came out gold, because I just, we went through a roller coaster ride to get through all this. This is the original top. It happens to be the correct original top with the like off-white backing on the material. This is not the correct tonneau. This was not in the Concours. This is just a dust cover. This is not an original tonneau. I've gotten a lot of emails from people saying, hey, that's wrong, this is wrong. This is the wrong tonneau, was not in the judging. But anyway, this is the right top, the correct top with the proper backing, which is just a holy grail of finding for this, and it's in excellent shape. So we were super confident about our top. And it's displayed perfectly, rolled up, just like it should have been, with the right straps, black buckles, 2 of them, black painted tab on the end of this little strap, all correct, no deductions. But then they said put up the top, which we did. Now, if you've had a convertible with a soft top, you know all too well, once you take a top that's been rolled up like this, even if it's just for a short period, and deploy it on your top bow, it's not going to come out looking like a brand new Mazda Miata. It's going to come out with wrinkles. Guess who got deductions for condition of the top? We did. And that kind of hurt, because I don't think that's a realistic deduction given the reality. I mean, this thing is rolled up pretty tightly, and these top windows are very sensitive. You've heard me talk about them in other videos. You have to treat them with the utmost of care. So this is not exactly how we like to care for them, but the judging requires that you store it this way. So it's kind of a dirty trick to ask you to deploy it that way without laying it out in the sun first. So we did get some deductions for that. But anyway, again,
the good news and the news of all this, and in fairness to the judges who were volunteers, and I'm so appreciative, they did a great job. We had, I don't know that I call it a fun time, but we had a good time, and we got our goal. They got to see an original car. Everyone, there were about 600 people at this show. They all got to see the correct original gold-worthy #1 Bugeye. It's here now, and we're really excited to have that. I mean, it's a special thing. It's gold. Thank you for watching and supporting us, for all the great emails. We got so many emails from people telling us how much they appreciated this. That's what we have from Bugeye Guys. Before you go, one more thing I just thought we should really add on to this video about 501. This is a car we call Betty, and it's car roughly 26,000, so about halfway through the production run. Again, the very first production Bugeye, and then the 26,000th that came after it, 1960, when they were in full swing. It's a gold Concours car. Let's take a quick look at it. This is a rare opportunity. If you like what we've been doing, if you like what you're seeing in all these videos about the first production Concours project, this car is already gold certified. So if you look inside, you have, you know, the original correct stuff, the steering wheel, a lot of attention to detail went into this project. It also has a similar Hardora non-carpet mat. Remember, in the Concours judging, carpet is the worst. They never had carpet in the time when these cars were built, so they take off the most deductions for carpet. So this is another approach to that, but it was gold. And again, we have the judging sheets. We know what wasn't perfect. If somebody wanted to get into this Concours game, this is a great way to do it because it's already a gold car. And we're happy to make another car gold, but you gotta have a lot of patience and time. The next judging event in 2023 is in Tampa. Let's just take another quick look around the car. If you wanted us to try to iron out a few of the other point opportunities, they're very small. There are a few little things that we might do a little differently and have fewer deductions, so it would be even more solidly a gold car. If you like that aspect of this process, we're happy to do that with you, and this would be a great candidate. We'll open the hood for you and show you under the hood as well, but it's a really beautiful car. So if you come over here before we go under the hood, this is the gold certificate, car 25014, and it was in the summer of 2001, so roughly 20 years ago. Actually, George was one of the judges on 501 this time around. So this is the certificate. This is a build book for this car. You can see they tried to keep pictures of every last detail. It's basically pre-restoration, so you have the history of how it all came together, but that's nice to have with this. And the car also had a bunch of other Concours. The AACA Senior Award is, I'm sure, not an easy thing to attain. Here's the Concours registry for the National Healy Club, Eastern States Concours in Bethlehem, and first for the National Punta Gorda show in 2001. So the car has done quite well, and it's here for the next Concours lover. And I was just laughing that actually those windshield screws on this car are also posi drive. So if you saw it earlier in the video, that's something we would change. But other things, like I believe by the time they got to car 25,000, these band clamps were used because the sardine can ones, as we said earlier, were not very effective. So these would be correct. And I think these are the correct ignition wires. So on 501, our wires were not correct. But you know, these are all the things that we would get into with the new owner of this car to try to, again, either campaign it for Concours or at least just make it accurate to be of service to this car and also to the new owner. Here's that later style paper hose, and I'm fairly certain, yeah, the rubberized hose would have been much more correct that you saw on 501, but this is the one that's readily available that people have used for years that's incorrect. So this would be another thing, another opportunity to improve the overall Concours quality of this car. It's already gold, and it would be a gold again, but I think we could make it better. Anyway, a beautiful car, another gold level car, an opportunity for someone here at Bugeye Guys.